Okay, so this is not only going to inspire our EITs who are right here in front of us right now. All of them couldn't make it, but they're going to get to watch it later on their online training. So thank you so much for saying yes and being willing to be a contributor.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is my favorite first question. Will you please brag shamelessly about yourself? And I have your bio right in front of me, so if you don't do a good job of it, I will chime in, because sometimes this is hard for people.
Right. Well, my name is Phil. I consider myself to be an entrepreneur, which is why I wanted to come and speak to everybody, because I'm a huge fan of Defy and what you're doing. And I like to, volunteer in the community, spend my time talking about some things that I know and try to help people. So this was a perfect opportunity. Thanks again for inviting me.
Yeah.
I'm a venture capitalist. I work at IDG Ventures. I'm a managing director, and we currently have a $100 million fund, and I look for entrepreneurs. That's $1 million. And I look for entrepreneurs that have a great idea in technology, mostly in consumer internet, in some enterprise companies, and we fund them. And hopefully these companies become really large. I work with those companies closely, work with the entrepreneurs closely, sit on the boards, and hopefully they become large companies. And I've invested in some big companies in the past, and some companies on there that you may know. Pandora was one that we did early on. It was very small, only 10 people in Berkeley, and they had a very different vision at the time. We worked closely with them, and they are the multi-billion-dollar company that we all love today. And also a lot of other companies. I love investing in companies, investing in entrepreneurs, but I also love the genres of music, technology, as well as computer games. So I focus my time playing computer games, listening to music, and trying to make money doing that. So it's great if you can find something you love. Really.
How long have you been in venture capital and investing?
Sure, for 17 years, a long time.
17 years.
Yeah.
And the other reason that I really wanted to have you here is because you're not just a venture capitalist and investor, but you've been an entrepreneur yourself multiple times around.
That's right. So I started an organization about when I got into venture capital 17 years ago with a mission statement of social networking among venture capitalists, because networking is really, really important. It's critical to our industry. We share deals among different venture capitalists, and also we network among entrepreneurs, figure out what they're doing. And we may not invest in them today, but we may 5 or 10 years from today. So it's really important to build that network. I organize events, which I love doing. So it's a passion of mine. I do it on the side as a side job, but it's really fun. I just organized an event today with the San Francisco Giants. So we're hosting a playoff game, which is great. I can't send the invites out because they haven't set the game time yet. So, and the game's on Monday, so I need to figure this out quickly. But I won't have any problem filling the box. So I have sponsors pay for the events, and then it's free for the participants. We get together, we network, and the sponsors who are service providers like investment banks and law firms get to know the venture capitalists. So it's a lot of fun, and it sort of satisfies that urge of mine to plan events.
And Phil has just a measly 1,000 venture capitalists in his networks.
There are a lot.
Yeah, not small connections
Right.
here.
What's interesting, Silicon Valley is sort of the hub of venture capital and technology, because great companies like Google started here and many others, and universities like Stanford. So we're in the center of the universe for venture capital, and there are a lot of them here. So it's great to work with them.
I'm Tim Draper, and I've been a venture capitalist for 28 years. I've helped fund some great companies. Some that you may have heard of are Hotmail and Skype and Tesla. There's one called Baidu, which is like the Google for China. And I've started something recently called Draper University of Heroes, which is a school for heroes. It's an opportunity to come to a place where we train you to become a hero. Or generally that means you're an entrepreneur, but it could mean any kind of hero.
In terms of personality traits, I think it's really important to be engaged with your user, be very respectful, and be professional. I think professionalization is so key in every single facet of your life, and not just in business. It's in every relationship that you have. And people respect it. So many of these things are common sense, but when you hear them from Defy or people who have done it before, you start to realize that those are things that I should be doing as a part of every part of my life. And you mentioned some things earlier on. Those are the way you write, the way you talk to people, the way you respond afterwards or follow up. Those are all positive things. I think people can tell if you're distracted or if you haven't practiced, or the way you dress. I mean, so many things matter in a first impression. When we look at a company, if we invest in a company, we're going to work with them on the average 5 to 7 years. It's a long time before we actually get our money back or make profits. But when we first meet with somebody for an hour, that's when we have to decide whether we want to take the next step. We talk to about 1,000 companies a year, and we invest in 15. So in that hour, really in the first 15 minutes, we know if there's a connection. So that first impression is so important. You need to have those character traits we talked about, practice them, and really nail that first meeting. It's so critical.
Before I write any kind of a check, when I meet with the entrepreneur, it's all about character. It's all about, will they do the things that they say they're going to do? Will they follow through and make sure those things happen? Are they honest? Are they straightforward? Are they on a mission? Is that mission beyond the money? Do you want to create something that is available for everyone? And then the best of the best entrepreneurs use the word delight in referring to their customer. I want to delight my customer. And if you are always thinking of the other person, think of the customer. And if you can make that customer delighted with your service, your business will just take off and you won't even have to look back.
The way we think about entrepreneurs and startups, we look at 4 different basic things. We look at the entrepreneur, and do they have what it takes to be successful? Do they have experience in this area? Do they have the drive? That's the first thing, and probably the most important thing. The next thing we say is, what market are they in? Is there a market opportunity? This is a growing market. Like the baby shoe company was not a growing market. Internet was a growing market. Then the next thing is, what's the product or the service that they offer? Does it solve a problem that people want? Is it valuable? And the final thing is sort of the deal, the transaction. Are we paying too high of a price? Does it make sense? Can we make money on that? So those are the basic things. I think as an entrepreneur, it's all about those relationships. If you're looking to raise money, try to work with somebody who is a friend of a friend, or maybe knows somebody, or maybe was funded by somebody else. Those relationships are really important. When you have that meeting, it's really important to be professional. Professional in every part of your life. If somebody says no, which they probably will, multiple times, they may say yes later on. I mean, they may refer you to somebody else. Don't burn any bridges. Be very professional about this. Somebody asked me earlier, how do you gain confidence to talk in front of other people? And I think it's really important to practice. Sit in front of a mirror and practice what you're talking about. Because once you have confidence in what you're saying, you can then speak freely and be more personal, make eye contact, and really engage your audience. And that's super important. And obviously, what we talked about, don't be afraid of failure. Your mind says, back off. And it's funny because your mind will play tricks on you. A name will pop in my head that I haven't heard of in 20 years because it's trying to distract me from the pain. And it's just so much about persistence. You have a goal. You want to set your goal. You have a plan. Follow your plan. You might have to adjust it along the way and change things around, but it's really all about just following that goal, following that vision. Pretty much every day you have highs and lows, the highest highs and lowest lows every single day, and multiple times a day. And the only thing that kept me going through that period was, I want success. I just visualized success and I want to get there. And I said, I'm going to do what it takes to get there. And it's the same thing in running these extreme races or running a business. You just have to know it's going to happen, and you need to get there.
The first time you start a business, there are a lot of mistakes you're going to make, and just be prepared. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, and some of them are going to cost you money, and some of them are going to cost you friends, some of them will cost you employees, some of them will cost you customers. Just know that that's what happens in business. Some of the things you can avoid is, once you start getting money into your business, never run out. Make sure you raise money or you get money from your customers, get paid in advance. That's the biggest one. Just a business fails when it runs out of money. Just make sure you never run out of money. Always have a little money just sitting there that just because you need it there. It's like a chest, a war chest. I think making sure that cash is coming into your business in a fairly quick way at the beginning is very important. I think over time you can build to a much bigger ambition, but at the beginning it's just like, hey, how do I get cash into this business? How am I paid for my service? What can I do? And those are the things that just keep asking yourself, okay, how do I get cash into this business? How do I provide enough value to my customers? How do I provide the value that delights them, that makes them want to pay me? I think the other things entrepreneurs often do is they throw up their arms and they go, oh, this is too hard. That's usually the day when you're about 3 inches from success. You just have to get a little bit further. You just have to go to the next day. You have to go to the day after. You'll have these days, many days in a row where you're just thinking, nothing's happening. I'm trying, I'm calling, I'm emailing, I'm building my social network, I'm doing all these things, I'm trying to make something happen, and no, nothing seems to be happening. Usually the window's just about to open. So patience and perseverance are really critical for entrepreneurs. They can really make a big difference for you. And so be patient with your business. It grows at its natural rate. Don't try to push it. Don't try to jump too high too quickly. Just one step at a time. The best entrepreneurs are in effect boring in life, but very exciting in their business. They just take it one step at a time. What do we need to do today? And what's the extra 10% that we're gonna do today? You know, I think there may be times when you get very frustrated and the business looks like it's not quite working, and you've tried as hard as you possibly can, and you've gone that extra mile and the business still doesn't seem to be working. That's a good time to sit back and listen. Listen really carefully to your customers. What are they telling you? Make them tell you what's wrong with your business. Make them be honest with you. Make them understand that this is really important to you, and don't be angry if they come up with something where they're very critical of your business. In fact, whenever anybody's very critical with you, think of it as an act of love. All of a sudden, if people are critical of you and you think of it as an act of love, all of a sudden you say, thank you. This is a great thing. You've done something for me. You've allowed me to adjust my thinking and adjust my business so that I can change it and make it better in this new way. So when somebody says, oh, this product's no good or whatever, get them to be more specific about it. Get them to say why it's no good. Why is it not serving the purpose that you had intended it to serve? If you can get past that, you're on your way. You'll continually adjust your business. No business is exactly as people thought it was going to be when they got started. It usually was a series of fits and starts and changes and adjusts and pivots and trials and tests. So just be aware that your business is an ongoing evolution, and you should just treat it as something that is ongoing and will evolve.
I've learned so much from failures in the past. I would say the biggest failure that I've experienced, I was part of a partnership and been in venture for 10 years, and at one point my partners asked me to leave, and they effectively fired me from a business that I loved. And I said, what am I going to do? This is my life, right? I've dedicated everything I have to this. And bided my time and waited for the right opportunity for me to branch off on my own, take what I learned and start my own business. So And I think it's hard. You know, you really need to follow the rules of the structure that you're in sometimes. Actually, not to veer off the
No, go
topic,
ahead.
but some of the best advice I heard was recently from Elon Musk, who is probably one of the best entrepreneurs of our era. He started Tesla, started SpaceX, and he started Solar City, three multi-billion-dollar companies. And he said, look, school is great. He's a big fan. But in life, if you want to succeed in business, find a mentor or someone you can learn from, and then read as many books or read about as much as you can about something you want to get into. That's where you're going to learn the most. There's some great resources, not just in books, but on Twitter. So, we met on Twitter, which is great.
Yes, we did.
I love the Twitter sphere. I've got 35,000 followers at San Francisco VC. It's my Twitter handle, so you should check that out. And I have a lot of tweets about entrepreneurship and a lot of infographics. One of those infographics talks about what is the profile of an entrepreneur, and it's typically somebody in their late 30s, early 40s. It's somebody who has experience, who knows the highs and lows in life, and they go off and do something on their own. So I would recommend, if you're going to read some resources, some of those infographics are I think really helpful.
There's a natural thing that is like, I am afraid. I'm afraid to try to go get a job. I'm afraid to try anything new. I'm afraid. The way to overcome that fear is take the first step. Just do it. Just take that first step. Once you take that first step, that first risk, the second risk is much easier, and the third risk much easier. And you have to bolster up all your courage to do it the first time. The second time, you still have to bolster up some courage, but it's a little easier. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets. And pretty soon you'll be well on your way. Take the first step, whatever that is, toward succeeding in your business. Just make sure you take that first step. And then you'll be in another place and you'll have to figure it out, and then take another step. So sometimes there's too much fear and you're afraid to take that first step. Don't be afraid. Just take the first step. If you make a mistake, you can always step back. You can always try something else. So the first step's the most important. The biggest failures I've had are the failures to act. The biggest mistakes I've made are the ones where I didn't do this. I didn't fund Google. I didn't fund Facebook. I tried in both cases, but I didn't push, and I didn't say, we have to do this. We have to fund these two companies. So my biggest failures are failures to act. And that's a hard thing for you to possibly think about, because one of the acts that you did put you into prison. So, but in business, acting is better than not acting. Trying is better than not trying. If you try, something will happen in business. Just keep trying, just keep pushing. So, so I'd say those are my biggest failures. I've failed many, many times. I've made investments where I've lost money many, many times, and those were big failures. But I've never even thought of those as failures. They were just experiences on the way to success. And the biggest failures are when I just didn't do it and I should have. I am constantly in fear of failure or whatever. I'm constantly in this fear. But what I do is I go and I say, okay, I'm going to go talk to cameras. Okay, I'm going to go speak to a crowd. Okay, I'm going to try this new thing that I've never done before. I'm going to go do something that's different. And every day, for an entrepreneur, every day is a different kind of challenge. And if I gave you one piece of advice, it's advice that my grandfather gave my father gave me. And it is, put in that extra 10%. And what's interesting about that extra 10%, it just work 10% harder. What's interesting about that 10% is that's the 10% that matters. The rest of it's all the normal stuff you do all day. It's just the blah of your life. That 10% is you and all the things you want to do with your life and all the things you can do for other people.